Whoa, 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 everybody. You know what time it is. You know what time it is. You know what time it is. It's real vile time, babies. And you know, of course, it's got to be the G to the E to the R to the M. The T stands for the, but you already knew that. And we're about to rip it up in a modern way. So you know it's got to be Mr. Germ T. Ripper. And we got the terror of the hour, the princess of power, Miss Killer Kelli Miller. Killer Kelli Miller. Tell these people what's really going on.
Hey, what's going on, people? What's going on is another episode, and we got a pretty cool guest.
Yeah. Pretty cool guest indeed. So we've got to come real with the Prime Minister, the Sinister, Mr. Ruthless Chris. Ruthless Chris, tell us, hey, what's really going on with you, baby?
What's going on is I'm gearing up for Chicago. Come see you, my man. Fucking excited.
Ooh la la, c'est la vie. It's going to be a good time for you and a good time for me. And speaking of good times, tonight we've got a guest. We've got a guest on Real Vile. We love having guests here on Real Vile. We don't do it a lot, but when we do, we get some good guest. Good guest. It's good guest on Real Vile. It is filmmaker, director, producer, editor extraordinaire, LUCAS HEYNE. It's LUCAS HEYNE time, baby. Ow! And all about, he's got to talk mostly about his movie that came out in 2019, true crime film. Actually, probably my favorite true crime film to come out in decades, called Mope. It's based on an actual incident about two guys working in the adult porn industry, the highs and lows, and the tragic ending. Man, this movie is insane, and I can't wait to get to our guest to talk all about it. But before we do, let's talk about a few movies that we watched, shall we? Killer Kelli Miller, paging Killer Kelli Miller. What movies have you been watching lately?
I'm going to start with a pretty new one. They just put it up on Shudder not that long ago. This is 2024's Stop Motion. This one is a British movie. It was very unique, and I enjoyed it for that. It was something different than you've ever seen before. Although the storyline was a pretty basic storyline, but with the use of the stop motion, and it being about a stop motion, character director and development. It was, the way they worked it in was pretty fucking cool. This follows Ella. She's a stop motion artist who's overbearing, but like legendary mother who is also a stop motion artist. Her mom lost ability of her hands, so basically Ella is her hands for her to make these stop motions. Basically, Ella feels like a puppet in her own life. This movie is very, very metaphorical. Like, there's one big metaphor right there, but it's like metaphor after metaphor after metaphor in this movie. The mother is trying to finish her final masterpiece when she gets hospitalized. Her sickness takes the turn for the worst, and Ella befriends this little girl in her apartment complex. Well, she ends up scrapping her mom's movie because she's kind of sick of it. She's been frazzled with it for a long time. And this little girl she starts making dolls based on this little girl's story that's unfolding night after night. Well, excuse me. Now, it becomes like the little girl's stories kind of play into Ella's real life, and then it's kind of hard to decipher her reality from her stories and shit like that. I really enjoyed this movie without getting too far into it, without getting too far into the storyline and giving stuff away. It's really good. It was very unique. It inspired me to I kind of want to play with some. As an artist myself, it made me kind of want to sculpt some little things and play with stop motion because I have done that before, and it's been a very long time. It's fun to do. But very time consuming. But this movie's really cool. It sets up slow. It's like a slow burn in the first half, but when shit starts going crazy, it goes pretty fucking crazy. There's a lot of character development. Most of the movie is the development of this character and what's going on in her mind and how she feels related to what she's doing as an artist. It's a great movie. I gave it 3.5, maybe even 4. I would recommend this. And like I said, it's up on Shudder. Check it out.
Very, very cool. Chris, have you seen stop motion?
No, I haven't. I've been really excited for it because I've heard people say it's kind of up my alley because I like a bit of a stranger mindfuck kind of movie, and from what I'm told, it's that kind of flick. But I haven't gotten around to watching it yet. I think my Shutter's down right now, so I gotta get that back up, and then I'll be able to watch it.
Yeah, well, I would say check it out when you get a chance to, because I would agree with Kelly there. It is a great movie. It's very meta, and and I love movies that have that sort of quirky girl, sort of like a little off-putting. She's awkward. Awkward, I think, is the best terminology to use for our main character, and she's going through a lot of issues. She's and trying to work through it with this artwork, and she snaps at some point. And it reminds me a lot of May, and I know that we all love the movie May, and the meta angle of it reminds me of the movie Censor that came out a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So, and I love both of those movies. With that being said, I give it 4 stars, and definitely check it out if you got Shudder or AMC Plus, because it's definitely worth it.
This one might end up on my top 10 list at the end of the year. I'm sorry. I said this one might end up on my top 10 list at the end of the year. I'm thinking we'll see so far, but so far it's on there, and yeah, I highly recommend it. I was going to say that the main character did very much remind me of May, and like the whole idea of what she's creating something, and this girl's creating something. It's definitely a relation.
Yeah, it definitely has that sort of similarity to it. But on that note, let's keep this train chugging along so we can get to our guest, Mr. Lucas Heyne. Ruthless Chris, what you been watching?
So I was going through Tubi, as one does, quite often nowadays. Tubi is becoming my bread and butter on watching crappy films. And every once in a while I'll come across a movie that I almost rented 1,000,000 times in the old video store days. I knew the cover really well, but I never watched it. And I'd be like, fuck, I'll watch one of those. So I watched Nightwish from 1989. I almost rented this 1,000,000 times. I wish I would have. This was a nice little fucking under-the-radar flick. It's kind of a little mini classic. I wish I would have seen this sooner. But what you have is you have 4 students that go to a mansion with their professor. And they're going to do some rituals and study some paranormal activity that's supposed to be going on there. But they're also doing these experiments kind of similar to Flatliners, where they're laying in these pools of water, and they can control their dreams and project their dreams into this recording. And they're trying to get it to where one of them can make their own death in a dream to run this experiment. But this thing gets real off the rails real fast. It's got great special effects. They're all practical from the time. There's everything's in this shoehorn into this thing. There's aliens. There's fucking demons. There's ghosts. It's bloody. Kurtzman and Berger and Nicotero all did the special effects on this thing. So there's a lot of really cool, fun special effects. It is a little bit. It steals a little bit from Flatliners and a little bit from Jacob's Ladder, but I really enjoyed it. I couldn't recommend it enough. I think this one kind of just flew under the radar and was a cool little classic. So that was 1989's Nightwish, and I give that 3.5 stars.
Fuck yeah.
Have you seen this one, Kelly?
It has been recommended to me for the past week or two, and it's on my to watch list. Actually, I've almost watched it a couple times, but now I'm definitely going to.
You'll love it.
Yeah, same here. I don't think I'd ever heard of it, and I just looked at the cover art. I don't even remember seeing that VHS cover when I was a kid or anything. But from everything you said, it sounds like something I would love, because I love that dream vehicle that was used so much in the 80s, between Dreamscape and Bad Dreams and Nightmare on Elm Street, of course. I love those type of movies where, things that happen in your dreams could happen in real life, blah, blah, blah. And the cast looks really great, too. So I'll have to check that out. And if it's on Tubi, got no reason not to.
Yeah, it had a great cast, like a lot of faces you recognize from like other horror movies, but the hook of it with the dream stuff is what really makes it extra fun, because when they go into the dreams, they can get as silly as they want because it's dream stuff. So they do a bunch of weird special effects stuff and goofy shots and lighting and all kinds of stuff. So they just, it's a fun movie. They're just having fun with this thing. So definitely check it out.
Very, very cool. And before we get to Lucas Heyne, I'm going to talk about a movie that I watched. And this one, before I even get into it, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I watched this one so you don't have to.
Oh, shit.
This is 2024's, based on true crime story of Illinois', probably one of Illinois' most famous serial killers. It is Gacy, Serial Killer Next Door. I think this might even be a Tubi original.
It is.
And if you know anything about the John Wayne Gacy story, you know what you're in for, but it's about a teenager's life in a quiet suburb changes drastically when John Wayne Gacy, a famed serial killer, becomes his neighbor. His curiosity leads to dark secrets and frightening journey from innocence to a dire clash with evil. When the theme song to the movie came on, I was like, oh, wow, that's a pretty great song. And I was like, well, cool soundtrack. Maybe this will be a good movie. It was not. And, I think that maybe if I had gone into it not expecting any sort of facts from what really happened, I might have liked it more. If I looked at it more from a perspective of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the ending of that movie, or how it deals with fictionalized events of real events with the Manson family.
Yeah.
If I had looked at it from that aspect while I was watching it, I would have enjoyed it more. But I couldn't, so I didn't. The acting's bad, but it's not horrible. And the cinematography isn't bad, so I'll give them that as well. But I just couldn't get over the fact that this is very much like Summer of '84. It's very much like Rear Window. It's very much like Fright Night, where the kid, is seeing all this killing going on, or he believes that this is a serial killer next door, but he needs to prove it, so he's hiding out in the crawl space. I'm like, that never happened. That can't happen. So I just couldn't get past that. Like I said, I watched this one, so you don't have to. I'm going to salute myself for this. So unless you have any interest in this fictionalized story based on John Wayne Gacy, I would definitely say skip it. I give it 1 star. It is streaming everywhere, it looks like. I watched on Tubi, of course. Guys, have you heard or seen of Gacy, Serial Killer Next Door?
I almost watched it, but no,
I almost watched it because the trailer actually doesn't make it look bad either. It looked like it was a kind of a decent flick. But no, I didn't watch it. If you wanted a decent Gacy movie, just check out the one called Gacy, where it's played by the dude who played the villain in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. It's just called Gacy. That one's pretty entertaining.
I'm pretty sure I've seen that one, but it was some years ago. That one's been around for a minute.
Yeah, there was a whole series of them that all kind of came out in just over a couple of years. Jeremy Renner did one where he played Dahmer.
I saw that one in the theater.
That was actually pretty good.
The 2003 Gacy movie with Mark Holton, I think his name is, playing the titular part. At least that one I could come to. So there was that.
Jesus.
I won't get into that. Let's keep the show going.
Let's keep the train rolling.
Let's move this terror train.
What's the next movie you got to talk to us about before we get to Lucas Heyne?
Well, I am going to talk about a fun 80s one that me and Chris watched on my back porch one night. This is The Lamp, originally called The Outing, 1987. You can find this one on Shudder. This one was kind of a hoot. It starts out with the thieves They go to murder an old lady, like a Middle Eastern lady. She's rich. One of them worked on her house or something. They're like, this lady's loaded. Well, they don't go to murder her. They go to rob her. And she ends up getting murdered, but they don't give a fuck. They're like, oh, we just killed her.
They're very cool with it.
Dude, yeah.
They're very
go
casual when one of their friends puts a double-sided axe through an old lady's forehead for no reason.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, they find her treasure, and it's just like this magic lamp, and like she's got this bracelet on. Anyway, during their debacle with the old lady, it releases some crazy, like genie or whatever.
Jinn.
Oh, not genie. Yes. Well, anyway, after the murder, all those kids that they're all dead because after that genie's fucking released, fucking dead. And then all the shit from the crime scene goes to the police station. They have all these ancient artifacts and shit like the lamp, which are also moved to a museum. Well, the museum curator's daughter ends up rummaging through one of the boxes and finds this cool bracelet that the old lady had on, which they do all kinds of cool little green effects in the eyeballs and like sparkling on the bracelet, so early in the movie that the bracelet's magic. Well, she steals that out of the box, and it is somehow attached to this magic lamp that is at the museum. Well, she's possessed by this genie. She becomes like possessed or something and wants to get all of her high school buddies to, let's go stay the night in the museum. And they kind of have a little party. There's a lot of sex going on. There is a SA scene because her fucking ex-boyfriend is a piece of shit, a racist SA piece of shit. So there's that. Be prepared for that. But other than that, there's some really fun deaths in this one. There's a lot of fun kills. There's like a snake scene in the bathtub, which I don't know why there's a clawfoot bathtub in the basement of this museum. It wasn't?
It was like a sauna type deal.
Anyway, the girl's down there bathing in the fucking museum basement, and all these snakes come to life and kill her that way. There's a lot of really fun kills. There's lots of death. It is 80s cheese cliche all around. Like the silly effects, like I said, like where it looks like they just like colored the eyeballs green, with lasers and shit. But yeah, I enjoyed this. I gave it a 3.5. Yeah. What do you think, guys?
The lamp. Where did you say it was streaming?
Shudder. It's originally called The Outing, but on Shudder it's called The Lamp. If you look it up on IMDb, it's called The Outing.
Okay. Yeah, this sounds like it's right up my alley. Chris, have you seen The Lamp?
Yeah, we watched it together. This one was cool. The way that they made the Jinn look was fucking hilarious because you could tell they couldn't figure out what to do with his legs, because they kind of wanted to make it look like he was smoke coming out of a lamp, so they did like a weird snake thing, but then they just shot a shit ton of fog towards the bottom of it, so you couldn't really tell what it was doing. The opening scene with Rob and the lady is brutal as fuck. It's really cool. You can kind of tell that like what you're getting in for with the opening scene, and then it meanders a little bit, but then it gets back to getting good. Real high kill count, real good special effects, a couple bisections, more than one in this movie. A lot of snakes. The one scene's pretty rough that she was talking about, the assault. So be prepared for that. It's pretty rugged. Aside from that, the stereotypical like crazy ex-boyfriend street tough made me laugh because it's like they tried to make him look all fucking cool by wearing a red and black stripy sleeveless shirt with a black leather tie and then colored sunglasses. So yeah, it's a quirky, goofy, fun movie. That's a lot of 35-year-olds playing high school students kind of deal. But yeah, I'd recommend it. I give it 3.5.
The costume choices were peak 80s. Peak 80s.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. I mean, the best decade for fashion and music, in my opinion, and horror movies for that matter. But yeah, I'll have to check out The Lamp, and anybody else listening on Real Vile needs to check out The Lamp. That sounds like a winner chicken dinner. Ruthless Chris, what have you got for us next?
I'm not sure I'd consider this a horror movie. I'd say it's more of a teen movie in the world of horror. It's got two names. The name I watched it on YouTube under was Boltneck, but it's also known as Big Monster on Campus. This is a retelling of Frankenstein starring a gothed out Ryan Reynolds before he was famous. This movie, it's a lot of like it came out in like 2001 or 2000, yeah, just 2000. So it's very much a product of the time. A lot of the outfits and cliches and jokes they make are really dated and didn't land so well. Think about like something like She's All That, but make it Frankenstein, and then dress Ryan Reynolds like he's the singer of The Cure. But then after they Frankenstein him, he becomes like sexy, and they have him in like a sleeveless shirt and like thin overalls and like one of those like fucking fedora hats and shit, and all the girls are like, "Oh, geez, sploosh." I did have fun with this, but not in the way they probably wanted me to, because I was laughing my ass off at every decision they made in this. And like it's pre-fame Ryan Reynolds, so he hasn't really got it like figured out yet. Like I think he's probably like 22 in this, so he's kind of awkward in this fucking movie. All in all, I did have fun with it. It's not really a horror movie, even though it is a retelling of Frankenstein. Basically, they're bullying. They invite the goth kid to the party, but there is no party, and they accidentally push him into a empty swimming pool, and he breaks his neck. And then there's like the nerd character who has been resurrecting his pets and resurrects them so that these people don't get in trouble for murdering him. And then he becomes sexy Frankenstein and starts fucking the ladies. So yeah, but you can watch for free on YouTube under the name Boltneck. I give it 2 stars. It's not a bad way to spend a night, but it's real bad. But it's funny.
Fair enough. Kelly, have you seen Boltneck, aka Big Monster on Campus?
I have not. I have never even heard of this movie, to be honest.
No one has. It came up in the algorithm. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Well, I remember hearing about it because when you said Big Monster on Campus, I remember that title, and I did remember Ryan Reynolds being in it, but I definitely did not watch it, and I kind of hope that I do settle in and check out Boltneck some night on YouTube now, because that sounds horrible.
It has Shelley Duvall in it too, and like you don't ever really see her in anything aside The Shining, because she famously went kind of recluse and hated Hollywood, so it was really odd to see her pop up. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, hopefully one of these boutique labels will pick it up and put it out, because I would watch the collector's edition of that any day. But let's keep this train chugging along so that we can get to our guest, Lucas Heyne. And I'm going to talk about a movie I watched. And once again, I don't know what I was thinking this past week. I'm going to salute myself. Thank you for taking one for the team, Germ T. Ripper, because this one was another one that I did not enjoy watching. It is a Spanish film from 2023, and I think that maybe Kelly watched it. I'm not sure, but it is called Killer Book Club. Right in the I think it's on Netflix. Yeah, it's streaming on Netflix. Right in the synopsis, it says Scream, and it says that it's an homage to Scream and It. Well, it has nothing to do with It, but it's Scream. The concept is 8 horror-loving friends fight for their lives while a killer clown who seems to know the grim secret they share begins to pick them off one by one. This is, if the mask that they wear looks similar to a clown, that's where the clown stuff ends, and it doesn't even really look like a clown. But it is Scream to the nth degree. It's like somebody watched Scream and they're like, oh, how can we make this slightly different? Okay, well, why don't we make the group of friends a book club?
Okay.
Once you realize that this is basically Scream, you know that there's 2 killers. Once you realize this is Scream and you see the main protagonist getting banged by some guy, you know that guy is one of the killers, because that's how Scream works. And I was just like, oh my God, it was a chore to get through. Unless you are a huge fan of 90s teen slashers, then I would definitely say skip this one. I watched it so you don't have to. I gave it 1.5 stars. It's streaming on Netflix. This is Killer Book Club. Have either of you seen Killer Book Club?
I've passed it up on Netflix, but I didn't realize it was a knockoff Scream movie. And I do kind of like the 90s slasher movies sometimes, but not if they're a straight knockoff from a more popular established one. Although, yeah, I don't know. Especially like 90s teen slashers. I want them to actually be from the 90s, you know?
I don't mind a throwback. Detention was cool.
Yeah, but
Detention,
Detention knew what it was. Detention knew that it was, slightly a parody, slightly an homage. This is no. But yeah, if you guys haven't seen this one, definitely skip past it. And on that note, let's keep this train rocking down the tracks. We've got one more round robin before we get to our interview with Lucas Heyne. Killer Kelli Miller, what you been watching, baby?
The next one I'm going to talk about is one I've been seeing, seeing some people talk about a little bit online. This is a Tubi original. I think it's a Tubi original or a Tubi. It is a Tubi release anyway. Lovely, Dark, and Deep, 2023. Written and directed by Teresa Sutherland. This is her debut movie. She was a staff writer on Midnight Mass, which I absolutely loved that series. Fantastic fucking series. If you haven't seen that, it's on Netflix. This is following a park ranger. She's on a missing persons case in the national park. It kind of brings back a missing person situation from her past when her sister went missing. So she's kind of taking this thing like personal, you know? If you know anything about like the missing 411 cases, about the missing people in the parks, this plays heavily on all of the theories where people might have went, when it comes to like everything, like, supernatural things. Maybe it's like alien things, which, that being said, this is kind of, it takes like a cosmic horror sort of route at one point. It was all right. I thought it started out better than what it ended up being. I feel like they dropped the ball towards like the second or third act. It just kind of got a little boring to me and a little bit hard to decipher what was going on, because they definitely blur the lines between like what's reality and what's not in this. Another one kind of like they did in stop motion, but it wasn't as effective as it was in stop motion, in my opinion. But yeah, I think the main character's name is Lennon. She is also one of the main characters in Barbarian. I didn't write down the actress's name. I should have. But she does a fantastic job at this. The movie's shot very beautifully. All the actors are good. I just feel like the storyline just kind of fell apart. It got a little confusing towards the end. I still gave this movie a 3. But yeah, if you like conspiracy theories, especially surrounding like, the missing people in the national parks, this might be more up your alley. I don't know. Germ, I seen that you on the letterbox that you watched it. What did you think about this?
I really like this movie. The combination of cosmic horror and folk horror, and sort of like, that personal edge of trying to find out what happened to your sibling really struck a chord with me. I gave it 4 stars, and I think it's definitely worth watching. Did you say this was on Tubi?
Yes, this is on Tubi.
Chris, have you seen Lovely, Dark, and Deadly?
I've not. I've almost watched it a couple times. I'll be honest, I'm real choosy with what I watch nowadays because I'm working 2 jobs. I'm working on that food truck at night, and it's really hard for me to squeeze in. So, like, my bread and butter has been just watching really crappy 80s.
I was going to say, so you go with Boltneck?
Yeah, Boltneck. Wait till you hear what I talk about next.
Well, speaking of what you're going to talk about next, why don't you talk about what you're going to talk about next, baby?
I watched this at Kelly's house. She didn't really pay much attention to it. She tried to talk the whole time, but I really enjoyed the fuck out of this movie.
I was doing some design things too. Same
kind of. This is an Australian horror movie from 1989 by Kendall Flanagan and Ollie Martin called Houseboat Horror.
It was silly.
I fucking loved this movie. This is a straight up rip off of Friday the 13th, 1000%.
Yes,
like in every fucking way, shape, or form. It's instead of camp Crystal Lake. It's Lake Infinity. You have a group of musicians and their team, and they rent like 3 houseboats and some jet skis to go film this music video on this lake, and then this killer starts picking them off one by one in very fun ways. This thing is extremely Australian, like about as Australian as you can fucking get. The outfits are insane. So you know that they're musicians. They have to carry their instruments around the entire time, no matter what they're doing. They could be swimming, and the guy's got a fucking guitar out. And
he's at a canoe.
That no one's like paying attention to continuity, because it'll be like the same scene, and they'll go back to the guy, and he's got an electric guitar. Then like someone will talk, and they'll go back to him, and he's got a fucking acoustic guitar. When they play the music video, the music is so unbelievably bad. I was laughing my fucking ass off. And then it kept, like, while it was playing this whole song, it played the whole fucking thing. It just kept, like, cutting to a guy in a business suit on a wave runner. And then, so, like, the murders all go down, and then I've never seen this happen before in a movie. Half the characters were off at a bar while all this shit was going down, and you think they're going to come back and be part of it. But no. It just shows them leaving the bar, like, all right, we're going to head back, and then, like, credits roll. So I was like, what the fuck is that about? But it does have a high body count. It's real bloody. It's a shameless ripoff. It's really funny when they set up the killer's backstory, like how much they just hammer you over the head with it. Like, it's really stupid. It's just like, film crew accident, boy burned hideously, and, like, you know, the killer's hands are all burned up and he's wearing fingerless gloves. They don't show his face to the end, but he's got no mask or anything. Just half his face is burned with, like, really bad prosthetics. But yeah, definitely check this out if you like shitty fun movies. I had a lot of fun with it. I liked it a lot. That's Houseboat Horror. I watched it on Tubi, of course, and I give that Tubi 3 stars.
3 stars?
Fucking 3 stars for Houseboat Horror. It's a great slasher. Unapologetically trying to be Friday the 13th.
Even the ending scene with, like, the hand. Yeah, I was, like Chris said, I was quite distracted while I was watching this because I was trying to do a million other things at the same time and talking a lot. But every time I did, like, slowly pay a little bit of attention to it, I'd be like, what the fuck? Chris is like, dude, the whole thing has been like this. Like the guy with the electric guitar, like, he's getting off of a canoe, like, electric guitar in hand. Like, you gotta know he's a rock star because that guitar never leaves his fucking hand until it's a different guitar.
I'm pretty sure there's no guitar in their song. Like, their drummer plays the bongos, and I'm pretty sure it's synth. It's all synth.
Yeah, fuck, it's silly. Even, like, the ending scene when the hand comes out of the water was straight fucking ripoff from Friday the 13th.
Yeah, so, like, it shows the guys get off the boat, not to ruin the end, but fuck it. You know, it's just like, so the killings happen, it shows the guys leave the bar, and then you're like, all right, we're about to get some more fucking body count, because, like, the whole band was just at the bar drinking while this was going down. And then it's like, and on that day, the killings ended. And then it shows the chain to the boat. And I was like, okay. And then a hand comes out of the water, grabs the chain, and then the fucking credits roll. I'm like, what the fuck was that?
Fair enough. Well, if you have any interest in seeing a Friday the 13th knockoff, it's on Tubi. And Chris, for fun reasons, gives it 3 stars. But I'm going to talk about one more movie before we get to our big interview with filmmaker Chris Heyne. And I'm going to talk about one that I actually did not hate. I actually quite liked this movie that I watched. And I'm glad that I found it on sale for $14.99. A Blu-ray copy at Target. This is Saw X from 2023, and I only watched it because it was recommended by multiple friends of mine who have tastes in horror movies that I appreciate. But if you're not familiar with Saw X, it's a sick and desperate John travels to Mexico for a risky and experimental medical procedure in hopes of a miracle cure for his cancer, only to discover an entire operation is a scam to defund the most vulnerable. Now, what I liked about Saw X is that they found a creative loophole to keep this franchise going. Instead of making it after I don't even know how many Saws there are now. Like 9? Well, obviously it's Saw 10. So instead of making it come after the 9th one, they slipped it between part 1 and part 2. And I thought that was a kind of genius because you see John, of course, played by Tobin Bell. He's in the hospital. He's in, basically a hospice, and he's going to these cancer support groups, and it's after the events of the first one. So yeah, he still got that killing spirit, but at the same time, it's kind of wavering, and he's trying anything to get rid of this cancer, this terminal cancer that he has, and he decides to go out on a limb and try this procedure in Mexico, which, like I read off, it turns out to be a scam. And this is when you could tell he just says, "Screw it." Everybody's dying, and everybody's dying horribly, bloody, gory, painful ways. And I think this was where there was no going back, and everything was just going to get worse from, I love Saw 1. I love Saw 2. After that, the latest one, Jigsaw, I like that one a lot. I liked Spiral, and I really liked Saw X. And I'm glad that multiple friends of mine whose opinions I trust on horror movies suggested it, or else I would have never watched it. But I give Saw X 4 stars, and it looks like it's streaming on Stars, and you can rent it on Prime Video for $5.99. But I would also get physical copies so that you can watch the making of features, because the writers really, Josh Stolberg and Peter Goldfinger, really go into all the thought processes that went into placing it between 1 and 2, and how thoughtful they were about everything concerning Saw X, which I thought was great too, because when I saw part 3, I just lost interest. I saw part 3 in the theater, and I didn't want to see any of the other ones. So this was a great return to form. It was just really brutal, and I really appreciated it. But I gave it 4 stars. Have either of you seen Saw X?
I don't think this isn't the one with Chris Tucker in it, is it? Or Chris Rock?
No, that's Spiral.
That's Jigsaw. Oh, Spiral. Okay, Spiral. That was the last one I seen. No, I have not seen this one. I also got turned off by the Saw movies after about 3 or 4. It just seemed like they were coming out too quick and just getting more and more cliche, and just ended up being felt more like a money grab than, trying to build the franchise to what it could have been. I'll have to check this out though, because I did like the first couple. They were great.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Saul just wasn't doing it for. I think I watched the first 5 of them, and I think I only liked the first 2, and I think I even thought the second one was just okay. So I stopped paying attention. I stopped giving a shit. These things came out every year. I kind of knew exactly what to expect for them. It's just, how are we going to set up the traps, and how crazy are we going to make them? And that's pretty much just rinse and repeat. So I stopped paying attention. But I've had quite a few people tell me that to give Saw X a try, because it's something completely different. I did love the first Saw movie. I thought that was fantastic. So maybe I'll give that a whirl one of these nights when I have nothing else to do.
Well, be forewarned that I gave it 4 stars instead of 5, because there are huge plot holes that you could drive a Mack truck through, and the ending scene is really cheesy, but other than those 2 things, I really enjoyed Saw X. But on that note, we've got a big interview with filmmaker Lucas Heyne, and here we go! Exciting, exciting, exciting!
And now for our feature presentation.
Oh my goodness gracious, gravy. Oh my God, you're all about to go crazy. We've got a guest, and it's a doozy for all you floozies out there in real Violand. It's Lucas time. It's Lucas time. It's Lucas time with Lucas Heyne. Oh my goodness. Lucas Heyne, I know that I'm very excited to have you on the show tonight. I've been a fan of your movie Mope since it came out, and I saw it at the Cinepocalypse Film Festival. I know that we've been in contact over the years through Facebook Messenger, and I share this movie with as many people who I can that will enjoy this level of genre cinema. For those people out there in real Vile land that don't know who Lucas Heyne is, could you give them a little rundown? Could you drop a little science on who Lucas Heyne is?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. I'm a filmmaker based in Los Angeles. I've been here for like 15 years, went to USC Film School, started in music videos, and then eventually, directing music videos for lots of crazy artists. And then I eventually decided I wanted to make a film. And I made a film called Mope that was a passion project. Started off reading an article in the LA Weekly. It was about these two guys named Steve Driver and Tom Dong and their mopes, which are essentially the porn equivalent of extras, the guys who do the gangbangs, the bukakis, the stuff that other guys won't do. And so it's this very tragic story about these guys' dark descent into trying to succeed in a very tough industry. I'm just a filmmaker based in LA.
Well, we're very excited to have you here on Real Vile. And man, when I first saw Mope, I didn't know anything about it. Like, with a film festival, you kind of go in blind, you just watch whatever there is. And when it started off, in that first opening scene, it's a bukkake scene, and it really sets the tone for the movie. Like, if this was a horror movie, it would be like extreme gore or extreme violence scene, but instead, it's this scene where if you're not used to that environment, you're going to feel uneasy. And me being a fan of the adult film industry, I was recognizing people that were playing in the scene. And how was that? How was that just filming that opening scene and setting the tone for the rest of the movie? Did you get a lot of people walking out during the festivals, or how did that go down?
So filming the scene, I got when I first wrote it, it was more like I was going to show like a series of medium shots of different guys, masturbating. Like I didn't really have a conception of what it was really like until I actually went to a real bukkake scene. I took the actors there to sort of prepare them for what it was going to be like to shoot it. And so we go there and we see it's this they're waiting in this room, and there's a red light, and the guy comes out screaming bukkake, bukkake. And so I essentially just changed the script, and then shooting it, I realized, well, how am I going to cast? Am I going to go background casting and get back extras to do this stuff? So we got a real life porn director to star kind of as himself. And then he put out the call on Twitter to all these porn actors. They don't like to be called mopes, though. That's a very insulting term. But all these porn actors who come to do these bukkakis, and they make like $30 a scene. And so they all showed up. Like I was worried I didn't know if they were going to show up, but they all showed up. And they were having a difficult time grasping that it was not a real scene. And they were upset. And so I had to be like, guys, I was like, guys, please don't expose yourself. This is it's a professional film crew, on a real porn studio, and there's all this stuff, but it went really well. Actually, there was no problems because hiring people that are comfortable with that environment, you just don't have a problem. The actress the main actress in that scene, she has done plenty of scenes, and she's a pro, and this was not uncomfortable for anybody. And so
you used real bukkake porn actors to simulate this, and they were out of their element a little bit because they weren't actually doing what they thought they were going to be doing.
They were mad. They were mad because that. I mean, you're like you must have, if you're someone who likes to go to these participate in the bukkake scene. I don't think it's really just about the money, right? You're making $30 a scene, but it's like there's something about this communal experience with these people. There are a lot of them are friends, but there's also just there's a libertine attitude that some of them have. But this is what they enjoy. There's a kind of a dark and there's a perverted aspect to it, but they love it. It's not. There's no. It's actually a very fun and relaxed environment when you see it. It's not really people are mostly having a good time. And so what's interesting is they all go there, and sometimes like 40 guys will show up, and I couldn't put this in the film, but it was ridiculous. 40 guys will show up, but they only have pay for 30 guys. And so like if you're not 1 through 30 that complete, then you don't get paid.
Your $30.
And that's why they stamp your hand, basically. So once you complete, you stamp your hand. And it's just so.
Oh wow.
And I think, and so when I shot the scene, I was like, oh, like I truly just wasn't thinking about like what an audience in a theater would think of it. And so the first audience to see it was at Sundance, and nobody walked out in that scene. They were just like shocked, of course.
Yeah.
But there's maybe a couple festivals. I think that somebody ran out screaming at a festival in Pennsylvania. Because if you're not into like I'm sure everyone here, you guys have all seen Salo. You guys have wild cinema. So if you go into this, it's not going to be that shocking. But yeah, but if you're somebody who's like you think John Wick's edgy or something, then you might have some issues, And so I wasn't intentionally trying to provoke people. It was just I'm like, this is really what it's like. It really is this way,
I honestly found a lot of humor in the movie myself. I found it more that shocking. Maybe I'm just too desensitized now.
No, because there is. It's like it's not like when I started visiting the stuff. It's both funny. The humor in it is from just the ridiculousness of the situation. Like you don't have to like the stuff that people are saying. It's like it's stuff I witnessed. So it's like the film is it's that the music is never driving you towards humor, but there's just stuff that's like I think naturally funny about it.
Yeah.
For sure. Like the stuff when he monster hands and stuff, like that's just all real stuff that he did.
I love that. I mean, every time I watch that movie, I pop, I laugh, and I clap when he comes out with monster hands. And we were speaking earlier before Chris joined us that you said that Tom and Steve met actually at this gangbang at this bukkake site.
Yeah, so like so basically there's a guy named Rocker who's this guy that apparently would wear like inflatable muscles or something like to make himself seem tough. And I talked about that. He was what was known as the bukkake wrangler, and so he would wrangle the performers and get them to the shoots. And he seemed like a nice guy. I've talked to him a couple times, and so he wrangled Steve and Tom. And how would Steve and Tom find out about it? Well, they would post ads in the LA Express or like at bus stops. They would literally anywhere, like laundromats, anywhere where they think that somebody would like a certain type of guy would see it, and a certain type of guy that is gonna be into doing this, and is not gonna have a problem showing their face on camera. Although you could wear a mask too. So. And then they found out about it. Yeah, lost my train of thought. And so they found out about it, and they went there, and the guy was able to show me their real life. Like he took their IDs and consent forms, and he still has them. So they literally met on a bukkake set, for sure.
What a way for a friendship to blossom.
Right. It does seem like an unlikely friendship between those two too, but yeah.
Oh, for sure. Everyone thought it was because they were both like special in the industry, So Tom, there was there are elements of the porn industry that are organized in a very racially hierarchical way, and so it wasn't at this time period. Tom was like there's very few Asian porn actors, and Steve just kind of didn't really fit in. He was kind of in the middle. He didn't really fit in with either side, and so they kind of just. Steve was a unique character who people really liked, but he was quirky. And Tom, they just clicked, and they became this team that people kind of associated, together. Like you hire them, and you get these two guys, Chris Tucker and Jack. Yeah.
The level of realism that you made sure that this film had really, and I didn't even realize it until I was watching a lot of the interviews right before we got on the Zoom together, in the interview together, the level of realism that you went through to get this movie to the level that it's at is kind of mind-blowing. That you went to these sites, you did a lot of research, and you had the cast actually go out and visit these places and see what it's like for these people, and that the majority or a good number of the cast are actually adult film stars themselves. I just think it's so brilliant being a fan of adult film and of a genre film, and then not only doing that but taking it from a buddy comedy to highs and lows of drama, and then just slap you in the face with that finale that is true crime, which is bloody and gory and amazing because it's so well done, and it's true. It's true crime, and I just love this movie so much. When exactly did the story come about? When did it come to light? When did you become obsessed with this story?
Well, thank you very, very much for those kind words. I became obsessed probably, around 2015, 16, basically, when I first, I had wanted to make my first feature, and I knew that I had to find something I was passionate about. And so I had read an LA Weekly article about, Steve Driver's death and Tom Dong's murder. And it's a very powerful, but hilarious article at the same time, written by this guy named Mike Albo. And so I read it, and I'm like, wow, there should be a film. And so I started working with him on a script for it. And he sort of linked me up. Mike is really connected into the porn scene because he used to be an editor for Hustler. So he just knows everybody. He's a fantastic writer. And he connected me with Steve Driver's dad. He connected me with all kinds of the real life Eric Long. And he just connected me. He all his connections he had for his article, he let me have them. And so I went over to, I started talking to Eric Long, and he, invited me over to his studio. And when I walked into the studio, it was, right where Tom had died, and there was still some blood specks on the ceiling.
Oh, wow.
And it was years after the murder, but it was just kind of it was just still there. It was this constant reminder. And then I was able to meet Chris, the real life Chris, Max Adler plays. And I kind of was able to, they kind of brought me into their world, and they kind of just educated me about, they're like, come to set. So the scene where you see all the ball kicking, that's literally exactly very close to what I saw in real life when I saw the first time he does it. He really has, Eric Long's a super nice guy, and he really just this is what he likes. It's what he's into. And he, it's his thing, and he's all about it. And so once I started, once I met them, and there's once you start to you meet people and become friends with them, it makes you care a lot more about the story, right? Because you're just, now you see it beyond this article. Now I'm seeing what their lives were really like. And then once I met, Steve Driver's father, who actually collaborated on the script, telling me all kinds of stuff. It gave me a window into kind of how he became who he was, and the unique set of problems that he had, and it really helped me empathize with him, because I realized this whole thing should never have happened. There are so many issues with mental health in the U.S., and I can go into many stories, but I was able to acquire a 17-page suicide letter that Steve wrote, and it was it goes into everything about why he did what he did. But, it's sort of like a manifesto at the same time. And, he's a person that had, narcissistic personality disorder. And what he ended up doing was something that he had thought about for years. Not just, the urge to be violent was not something that just happened then. He had thought about it for at least a decade of hurting people. And his parents tried everything to help him, but there was no, when you're a person who is not obviously insane, you're kind of in the middle, you can still function and say, well, I'm normal. And then there's nothing they could do, even if you've displayed symptoms that are very problematic. So that's kind of what got me into it, where I was like, wow, it's a very sad story about how you can really, delude yourself. If you follow a dark delusion, it could take you to some horrible places,
Wow, I literally got chills hearing you talk about that, because during the film, you never spell out what exactly is wrong with Steve. you know, and it takes somebody that has some experience with people with mental health issues to like. For me, I was like, he's got to be somewhere on the spectrum, maybe. And I actually really appreciate that you don't completely spell it out. You know, his father says, you know, there's something wrong with you, but you never say it. You know, the hygiene issue, I know that sometimes that's issues for people that are on the spectrum or other disorders or other things that they're living with. So I really love that aspect of it too, that nobody was able to step in and do something because he's functioning. He's functioning at a level when he can fit into society most of the time.
Yeah, he comes off as quirky at first until, you know, you start to really see that there's more underlying issues. You know, at first he just kind of seems like, oh, this guy's a fucking character, you know?
And here's the reason I did that. It's so the porn industry, unlike a lot of other industries, there's no, you know, there's no unions that protect you. There's no like background checks. So anyone can just, you know, hop off, you know, come into LA and say I'm a porn actor, and people are not really they're gonna respect your anonymity because of the nature of the industry. They're not going to look into your background. So, you know when Steven entered the industry, the way he's portrayed in the movies is like how everybody thought about him. It's this quirky character. Yes, he has bad hygiene, but you know, that's not the worst thing in the world. But, you know, unbeknownst to people who had just met him in porn, you know, he had driven onto the University of Northridge campus. He had weapons in his trunk, and he had been stopped, and people didn't know what he was going to do, if he was going to do some sort of attack. He had an incident where he supposedly pulled a gun on a professor years before and threatened to, you know, blow his balls off, basically because he gave him a bad grade. And so these are all things that he had these things, but nobody knew about them.
Yeah,
porn. And so, and even beyond his mental illness, you know, he had a hard time growing up, not fitting in. I'm not going to go too much into his like family, because they want to, you know, remain anonymous. You know, they don't want.
Yeah.
But basically, he had a tough time growing up between, you know, his parents were divorced, and one lived in one area and one lived in another, and they were just very different cultures that he was in each spot. He didn't really fit in, and throughout his life, if you read his suicide letter, he had an inability to connect with women, and it was something that really weighed upon him. And you know, it was something that as he grew older, it really, really increasingly bothered him. And so going into porn was essentially a way to become this idealized alpha male caveman guy that's, look, I'm with, look at these women that I'm with, like girls like me. And and because he couldn't form an emotional connection, because if you read his suicide letter, he wanted a girlfriend. That's what he wanted, a girlfriend and a partner and love. And he thought that going into porn would give him the social validation that would get him like a healthy relationship. And so,
yeah, I feel like you definitely allude to that several times throughout the movie, where he confuses romance with porn.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I realized, 10 years, like years and years before I even made this film, I realized I encountered a Mope in like a bar in the Valley. I went to a bar and there was a guy with a laptop, and he was kind of, you know, he was looking for attention, and he was scrolling through and he was showing porn pictures of him with women, and he was essentially a Mope, but he was showing it off because he thought that it was giving him, like, everyone's like, oh my god, this guy's so cool, look at these women he's with. And he didn't somehow, you know, maybe women in the industry would have a feeling about it, but they don't make the connection that might not be appealing to somebody outside the industry if you're trying to have a meaningful relationship.
So was that the inspiration for the bar scene then, when he brought the trapper keeper of like his scenes in, was trying to impress the women? Is that where you drew that from?
Yep. Oh, he would go to bars.
Experience.
Yeah. So what he would do is he would carry around his portfolio. So what he would do is he would go on a website and print out a picture, like just on like a regular paper, print out a picture of him, you know, in some sex act, and then he would put it in his portfolio that he would bring around and show women in bars. Or at parties, adult industry parties, and even at adult industry parties, people don't really want to see that. Like 99% of these people you meet are very professional, and they treat this as like a job. They enjoy what they're doing, but it's a job. They're not like, all this is a character they're playing. This is what they're doing. So so he goes to a porn party and he's bringing up this scene. They're like, I don't want to see that. And so that's what he would do. And he didn't see that it was weird, really.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris. Chris, you go ahead.
Okay. Through what I do on my other job, I've actually spent some time around people that were in that industry, and it is surprising how absurdly normal they are. I've done a couple shows that like Jasmine St. Clair was on, and Veronica Kane, and Slava, who shoots for Alt Erotica and all that, and like they're just the most fucking people. Oh, you know Slava?
I had dinner with Slava a couple months ago.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I really like Slava's a super nice guy. Yeah.
You would never know. What's that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You meet him and become friends. You're like, oh, it's a job. It's like, it's just not. There's a bias and certainly the ridiculous bias against people. But it's a job, and there's so many people. Like the majority of humans probably consume this stuff, and it's like it's this weird. Yeah. So whenever Steve Driver basically like was like, and Tom are not like. Not with the average like person in the business,
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting hearing you talk about the way that the workers in the adult industry are, and knowing Chris is an owner of a wrestling promotion, and how a lot of the workers in wrestling probably see themselves too, like this is a job.
Yeah,
I'm working. They don't. It's not like always trying to go out and perform all the time and brag all the time and look what I did, look what I'm doing. And those who do that are probably like frowned upon at parties and get-togethers. I'm just guessing here because I know that when I started training in wrestling, I was doing it for fun. And when people were like, no, this is work. This is a second job you're coming to do. You two guys, would you see any sort of correlation between that?
I mean, in my world, absolutely. Everyone thinks that what I do is all like just super fun and sunshine and rainbows. Is actually real stressful, and it's just my day-to-day fucking grind. Like I don't see it as very fun at all. And a lot of these guys that work for me or workers that I'm around, it is their 9 to 5. Like they're coming in and clocking in and getting their paycheck. They're a big personality out there, where they get behind the crowd, the scenes. Some of them are the biggest personalities out there, and then you get them behind the scenes, they're the quietest people, and then vice versa. But they're all there just working. This is their weekly grind. They're doing it every single week. So I'm assuming there's quite a bit of overlap there.
You work for Rob? What's the wrestling place called?
Oh no, I own Ruthless Pro Wrestling. I don't work for Rob, but I've rented him my ring before, and then I sold guardrails and shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that is a spot on comparison, because the idea that like in wrestling, I mean, I can only imagine what it's like to get slammed, and like it hurts no matter what you're doing in it. But in most cases, you're playing some exaggerated version of something. You're playing a character, and you're playing, and in porn, it's the same, kind of similar to why Steve Driver had monster hands. You want to be the most sensational, character that people, you want to be hot on people's names. You want to be someone that people remember and that stands out. And so, if you can't turn that off, that could be an issue for people, because if you confuse that that's real life versus porn, because if you confuse that, it's like you can't behave the way you're behaving in the ring outside in real life, and so some people don't grasp that.
Yeah. I mean, it's all at work at the end of the day. I mean, in both industries, I mean, it's just people doing a job.
I can only imagine, like, if you were like a male performer or a female performer in porn, you're not turned on every single day. It's like you're not into this. Like, especially if you're having to do multiple scenes a day, like you may not be attracted to your partner, scene partner. You may not be feeling it, and so I think it's a very tough job. like, a lot of work, and then just the social media promotion and all this stuff, and then all the hate you get, and that's it's pretty ridiculous.
Absolutely. And just a few sentences ago, you brought up Monster Hands, which reminded me of that great scene, which I laugh at every time. It's so amazing. But the fact that the director in that scene is none other than David Arquette, I think is one of the biggest pops, the biggest thrills in the movie. He's probably, besides Adler, he's probably like the biggest name, right? Or the biggest name in the movie.
For sure.
Everybody goes, David Arquette's in this movie. Because I think besides this, at that time, he had done You Can't Kill David Arquette, which was his documentary about being in indie wrestling. How did you get David Arquette to be in Mope? And, just tell us a little bit about that, would you?
Yeah. So our casting directors, Kelli Roy and Morgan Robbins, are amazing, and they actually do. They cast all of James Wan's movies. They cast Mike Flanagan's movies, all of his stuff pretty much. And so they are legit. And so they even though this was a tiny budget movie, they responded to the script, and so they are responsible for getting everybody in the film. And so, of course, I have to go meet them and convince them. But Kelli and Morgan, they're if they recommend something, people certainly take note. And so when David just liked the script a lot, and he it was really easy actually. Like he read the script and was like, I'll do it. And he, we shot him for like 3 days, and he's incredibly nice. Really one of the easier people you'll ever work with. Super supportive. And I have really nothing negative to say. He was literally like every single actor in the movie was easy to work with, as was him. He just kind of came in and nailed the part, and he kind of based it on people that he kind of knew. Like I can't say, but he based it on kind of a famous actor who's kind of a misogynist, and so he kind of had all these qualities into it, and it's fun to see because he's such a nice guy when he plays such an asshole in the movie. But you really see how talented the guy is. He can pretty much play any type of role. He's like Dewey's like the most in Scream, one of the most likable guys, and now he plays a bigoted porn director. But we wanted that to be in there because it's just there are definitely people like him in the industry, like people who kind of use the power to take advantage of people and just abuse people, just like in mainstream film, no different.
Yeah, and I do think David Arquette is kind of drawn to that kind of I think he likes doing films like this every once in a while just because it's really fun for him. Like I saw him in like a movie called Spree the other day where he was just playing like a douchebag raver dad, and I think it's just like it's a small part where I can really sink my teeth into it and have a lot of fun with it, but it's not going to get in the way of the other movies I'm doing, because I come in and I do like 3 or 4 scenes.
I think he just likes he goes off material. So he's not like Spree was really compelling. He goes off material. Like right around when we were doing Mope was around the time he was telling about his documentary. And the guy just does stuff that like he did like his stuff with wrestling, right? Like he just if he likes something, he pursues it 100%. And
he did a pretty good horror movie too, where Ronald Reagan was chopping up hippies. It was pretty funny, called The Trigger.
Directed it, it's a great movie. He really likes a movie I like called Cheap Thrills too. Like he's that's a great film. And so he just kind of has that. He likes that kind of that like these unique roles and stuff. And totally, it's like you come in 3 days. It's not the same as But I don't think budget really. I think he gravitates towards material as far as I can tell. It's just if he likes something, he'll do it. And he's his reps are really cool. So it's not I would encourage anyone who has an interesting script. He's not if he will do material even on a smaller budget film if he's passionate about it. Great guy.
No, I think that's awesome, and probably helped get the film into the circuit as having a bigger name in it. And I know that I appreciated being able to see it where I did at the Cinepocalypse Film Festival, and then when you stumbled upon the review I wrote and you sent me you burned me Blu-rays of the movie, and I continue to show it to people that I think are going to appreciate that. I'd actually played it for Chris and some of the guys from Ruthless Pro Wrestling the first time they stayed at my house, and I thought everybody was asleep, so I shut it off. But it was pretty close to the end. But I love showing it to people because it's such a great genre film. You know, when you can go from comedy to drama and to that finale that just punches you in the gut, and that finale, you end it with them coming back into the adult film shop, the porn shop, and there is, I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a parody video or what it's supposed to be, but where they do like a remake with a Tom and a Steve. Do you know if anybody ever did something like that? Was that just for this movie, or did that actually exist?
Oh, it's 1,000% real. That so after they died, a producer released a compilation scene of their greatest hits, and it's if you look at the cover at the end of Mope, like it's a recreation of that cover. So the bubble letters, like he killed me, I killed him, I'm sucking a dead man's dick, all that stuff, that's real. There's a level of shamelessness that some people will do to exploit, to try to make a little bit of money off someone's death. And so when I saw that, I was like, I can't. Because like you were saying earlier, when I research something, I find out pretty much everything that's possible to know about it, and I thought that was just outrageous. Because but also because it was like there's an earlier scene where they're looking for their scenes in the porn store and they don't find them, and that was something that was really valuable, like really important to them, that they wanted people to know their names, and so they actually they achieved their goal. Steve did anyway. He achieved his goal in the worst way possible. He got his own little slice of fame, but in the most horrible way. You know, so that's kind of why I ended it that way.
So what's next on the plate for you? What do you got working on now?
I'm casting a film right now. It's a narrative film called Psychopathy. It's sort of, I would describe it as it's like My Dinner and Andre with serial killers. It's
okay.
It's very it's if you like, it's very similar to Mope in tone. It's very dark and funny. It's definitely more genre, more horror, like a lot of violence. So we're casting that. It's a lot of the same team, a lot of the same production team that did Mope. And then I've been working on a documentary for the past 3 years called Pariah, the story of contusion. It's a doc that kind of spun off Mope. It's a much higher profile project, but it's basically just about this porn director from the early 2000s who led a very shocking double life as a real estate developer in Los Angeles. So it dives into this very similar kind of Chinatown. It goes into politics and business fraud. It's very, very interesting. There's
Cool.
I
Both
didn't
of those sound interesting.
Yeah,
I said both of those sound very interesting.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you. Yeah, I think Pariah is like scary. Pariah's it shows. There's a Daily Beast article I gave an interview about it last year that kind of goes into it, but it's very it kind of started as a small little thing and now it's grown into this big thing. So hopefully that'll come out next year.
Is that going to be a film or a limited series?
Right now it's a single doc. I could see it expanding, but it's we have it's still shooting. Like we've been shooting for a while and we're in post too. So it kind of just depends on. It's not really my choice if it'll expand, but I would prefer for it to be a feature. Just a feature.
Oh, that's awesome. So you got two amazing projects coming along. You killed it with Mope, and everything seems to be coming up LUCAS HEYNE right now. As far as I'm concerned, at least, I'm a big fan. I'm trying to turn everybody else on to you, and I'm grateful. I know that Kelli and Chris are as well grateful that you came on to Real Vile, and you were able to share your time and energy and everything that's going on in your life and the making of Mope and everything you did behind the scenes. So I just wanted to say thank you again for joining us here on Real Vile.
Well, thank you very much for the kind words, and thank you so much for supporting the film. And and taking the time to talk too. It's been my pleasure. And, it's great to tell these stories about the film for sure.
Absolutely. When your next stuff comes out, we'll definitely have to have you back on.
Yeah, I'll once we do like a kind of a trailer announcement for the doc will come out first probably. I'll send it to you guys. So get your thoughts.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Any final words before we leave Real Vile Land?
I would just say if you're interested in watching Mope, it's on Tubi now, and it's a very dark true story. If you like extreme and wild films, that's the film for you, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Killer Kelli Miller, you got any final words for people out there in Real Vile?
Good night. Check out Mope. I really enjoyed it for as dark of a subject matter as it is, especially by the way it's set up in like the very beginning. Like, you think it's very entertaining and it keeps you like attached in the story. Like, and you're right, it goes from comedy to the end's very tragic in a lot of ways. I really enjoyed it. But yes, check out Mope on Tubi.
Thank you very much.
Ruthless Chris, any last words?
Yeah, check out Mope. It's a lot of fun. I had fun with it. Some people might find it not to be so fun, but definitely good watch. And when this comes out, we'll be about a week away from being in Chicago with Scum of the Earth at the Berwyn Eagles. So come join us there and say hi to Germ and I and Peapod. I don't think Kelly's coming with us on that trip.
I don't think I'll make it to Chicago this time. See y'all soon anyway.
Thank you for joining us, Lucas.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And on that note, I'd like to say, keep it spooky, keep it creepy, keep it Mope, and God bless America. Send nudes. Ow!